Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Kickback Comics. My name is Antonio.
My name is Ben, and you guys are listening to a comic book podcast
By two dudes who have not read a lot of comics, but are looking to get involved, read some comics, grow up on an island in the Underworld, ride a flying bone horse, and save the world.
Yep, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Welcome, everybody. This is our new hobby. We're doing a book club. We are currently making our way through the new ongoing Absolute run.
Yes.
Out of DC. So last episode, we went through Absolute Superman.
Absolutely.
Which was really cool. And what are we doing today, Antonio?
Today we're doing Absolute Wonder Woman. And this was super fun. This was interesting because it's like, the last thing that we read was like super kind of specifically, or at least it felt in a lot of ways to be pretty political. I don't think it just felt it. I think it was.
It definitely was, yeah.
And this one is a little bit more like, I think that there is still some stuff that you can glean from that for sure. But I think that this one is just like a wild ride. And it's just a good time with some...
Right. It's a much more contained story, right? Like over a bunch of these issues, Wonder Woman's kind of facing the same threat. And then I feel like the highlights for me, at least, were all of the flashbacks that are sort of like contextualizing this alternative Wonder Woman backstory.
Right.
And it's really leaning super heavily into Greek mythology, which I just ate up.
Yeah, he was telling me a lot about this.
I love Greek mythology. My mom, when I was like a baby, like some of the first stories she would read me, like when I was trying to go to sleep, were from like a big book of Greek myths.
That's super
I'm pretty sure, like we were talking about, audio books on cassette tape and whatever. A couple episodes ago, I'm pretty sure I had a bunch of Greek myths on cassette tape, and wasn't a Percy Jackson. My first ever video game was Age of Mythology.
Wow,
which was
cool.
like Age of Empires, but with the Greek gods and whatever.
Right.
So yeah, bro, that was just my early shit was Greek mythology.
That's super cool. And so this was a cool dive into some of that stuff. I think that, what's interesting about, Ben and I were talking about this earlier, was just that we are not only with Superman and Wonder Woman and probably with Batman too, that we'll probably continue reading these. And I think, this I thought was super cool. I thought this was super fun. I think that there are a lot of like really interesting moments. We'll get into all this, but it's like, it's cool panels. It's cool moments. It's just like fun. I think there was a lot of like classic comic book fun in
For
this. Sure. It's kind of a crazy story. It's funny. It's like how, I guess almost like none of it is like fun in that sense, but it was a very fun thing to read.
Right. It's pretty, I know what you mean. Like the tone is dark, but it's not dark in the same way Superman was.
Yeah.
Like it's not having like commentary on AI's impact on our society or whatever. It's more like, what if Wonder Woman had to fight a huge kaiju?
And well, I slightly take back some of what I said, because I think it is like pretty dark, but I think that the kind of underlying current of this whole thing, and it's sometimes like talked about explicitly, but like the underlying current is like, it's gonna, like, stuff's gonna work out, and like there's hope. Hope is like the thing that exists there, I think, in a lot of the portions of this and a lot of the conversations that they have as well.
That's a really good point. I think that also contrasts to, the previous episode with Absolute Superman, because I think part of their reimagining of Superman was...
Can't save anybody.
Right. He's super dark. Like, he's dark. Hope is something that usually is also super associated with Superman
in particular,
and we didn't really feel that as much in the Absolute iteration or whatever.
Right.
Versus Wonder Woman, even though she, as we're going to discuss, was raised in hell and is like a witch, does all sorts of dark magic and whatnot. Still at the core of it, she's like, oh no, I'm here to inspire hope and bring, peace and help save people.
Yeah, that's I'm
like, going to rescue people. It's very like traditional superhero type action, like you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So diving into Absolute Wonder Woman, this was published in October 23rd, 2024. That's when the first issue came out. The writer is Kelly Thompson. The main artist and penciler is Hayden Sherman. The color artist is Jordi Belair. And the letterer is Becca Carey. there's some other artists that contribute. Like at one point in this run, the artist completely switches up and the art style changes pretty drastically.
And we'll talk about that, because that I think was just super. That's something that I think about comics is also just like super fun. And we also, I mean, we'll talk about also, we get all these kind of like alternative covers and different things like that. I think seeing so many different people's like interpretations of like what that looks like is just super, super cool.
All right, I just found the other artist's name here, Antonio. It's it switches up during part 1 of 2 for the Lady or the Tiger arc. The writer is still Kelly Thompson. Do you wanna read that name out for us, Antonio?
Mattia de Ilui. Actually, it's got to be. All right, I'm going to take that back, because I originally thought it was going to be French, but when I looked it up, I know for a fact now that they are Italian. And let's see if I
Mattia.
can. Va bene.
I'm scared.
Where the fuck is this thing, bro? Okay. Mattia de Ulysse. Mattia de Ulysse. That's what I'm going with.
Cool. Yeah, their art style really stands in contrast to the primary artist when it switches up. It almost feels like we jump from like a cartoon to like a live action movie in a weird way. It's all of a sudden just like super high fidelity, and we're seeing Wonder Woman just rendered way more realistically, photorealistically.
Yeah, photorealistic.
And
shout out to Scott.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. It's cool to see, you know. It's cool to see artists depict characters even in the same storyline,
right,
so differently.
Yeah,
and have it still be connected,
and just trying to understand and feel like how that shifts the vibe of like how the story feels, how the characters feel, and I think, I mean, it's also, you know, a lot of that like is the expressiveness of these like characters as well, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. So I gathered a little bit of context here on Wonder Woman in general. So the character of Wonder Woman first appeared in All-Star Comics number 8 in December of 1941.
Hell yeah.
And that was created by William Moulton Marston, and the artist was Harry G. Peter. So basically they came up with her during World War II, and she was supposed to be kind of a new type of hero who was supposed to be like fighting not just with brute strength, but with compassion and truth. And then Wonder Woman sort of became a long-running symbol of justice, equality, empowerment. She's been reinterpreted a bunch of times over the years. But she always has like mythology and feminism sort of at the core of her identity in all those stories. And then, you know, obviously there were Wonder Woman movies not too recently that were, the first one at least was really successful.
The first one was pretty successful. I don't know about the second one.
I didn't even see the second one.
I didn't see the second one either. And then it was like it became like a whole thing.
It became a whole thing, and it all kind of collapsed. It's like right when the original DC movie universe was not working out as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So should we dive into a little bit of a summary of these issues that we read?
Let's dive in. So we'll start with our overall summary, and then we'll dive into issue by issue as well here. So Absolute Wonder Woman basically reimagines Diana's entire story in a bold kind of myth-heavy retelling that fuses a bunch of tragedy with heroic defiance. She's raised by Circe, who is a witch, among other things, I believe, in the depths of the Underworld. And Diana's grows into a warrior forged in fire, loss, love. She has kind of the legacy of the Amazons on her shoulders, but she's very much someone who is carving her own path. Across this kind of first arc here, entitled The Last Amazon, she defends Gateway City from a bunch of monsters, faces judgment from a couple of different beings, and challenges the gods themselves. By the end of the last issue of number 7, which is 2 out of this first arc, but kind of into our second arc here, her rebellion starts reaching Hades and Hades' arena, where she kind of goes against all these different paths and expectations that are laid before her, forges new paths, new avenues, and proves that heroism lies not in just obedience, but in making the choice to be a hero, which I think is a theme that we've seen before as well, with some other characters. So diving into issue number 1, we get right into the action where we see a big ol' floating pyramid, which is unleashing these flying monster things called harbingers over Gateway City. And Gateway City looks a little bit like San Francisco, a little bit like some other cities, but I'm going to go with San Francisco. Diana, Wonder Woman, descends on Pegasus, wielding her gigantic blade, which is the Athena blade, and she's got Underworld magic at her side as well. A bunch of these different flashbacks that show up during this issue kind of reveal her upbringing by Cersei, who kind of in the beginning here is forbidden from speaking the word Amazon. Pretty cool thing with that, where they kind of just like fudge that out whenever she tries to say it. Through the rest of this first issue, Diana kind of comes to accept her true nature, understanding that she is an Amazon, and starts battling against not only those original Harbingers, but Harbinger Prime as well.
What do you think, man? Dude, what stood out to you in this one?
I think that it was really interesting to dive right into the action right away. I think I was kind of just excited by seeing all this crazy stuff going on. And then I think something that jumped out to me that probably did to you as well is seeing, who is it? Is it Ares that pulls up first, or is it, it's not Ares. It's who is it? Apollo who pulls up first and drops off, Diana. But we've got some interesting stuff with the gods already. We also, when Apollo pulls up, there's also just the first of, at least it was the first time that I noticed it, but the first of many different kind of interesting looking panels.
Yeah.
And that was like something I was really excited to talk about with this. And shout out to our boy Scott McCloud as well. The panels like are all crazy. Over the place. It's like every shape that I feel like you could almost imagine is like used to create a panel in these.
Sort of what it evokes for me, a lot of them are circles, which is wild. Mm-hmm. Like in this one where you can see Wonder Woman kind of swooping down on Pegasus for the first time. Mm-hmm. It's like a bunch of different overlaid circles on top of each other. And I think it's sort of eventually we see Wonder Woman cast all these different spells and hexes mm-hmm. and draw patterns and blood and whatnot, like all these sort of like ritual spells. And that's sort of what the panels are evoking for me. Like they're kind of the shape of the incantations or whatever in some kind of way, which is a really interesting way to use panels and gutters, really. You know, we saw when we were reading Watchmen, that was way more structured mm-hmm. on a 3x3 grid mostly. Yep. Then we talked about last episode with Ultimate Superman. They were being really innovative with panels in an interesting way, but it was more just that it was emphasizing energy and sort of dynamic and at all these weird angles. They weren't exactly still using clearly defined gutters the way that they are here in Wonder Woman, but those gutters just happen to be all like spherical and warped and odd. Yeah.
And we get some really great action scenes kind of in the beginning of this. Not only action scenes, we also get some, I mean, I like the way that they do the backstory in this. Like we get this chance to kind of just like watch her really grow up. And there's these kind of, I think these 3 maybe groups of pages like back to back that kind of show her and Cersei, I mean, to a certain extent, like growing up together.
So
it's sweet.
Cersei is banished into the Isle of Hell, which is sort of like a barren island in the middle of nowhere.
The Wild Isle.
Yeah, we find out later is literally in the underworld in hell. Cersei, from Greek mythology, she's one of the like big spellcaster witches. So she's one of she probably is from other things, but what I know her most from is the Odyssey. So she's like one of the trials that Odysseus has to deal with. Part of her shtick is she's good at like transfiguration. Like she turns people into animals. So like his crew goes to land and she like turns them all into pigs and like that type of stuff.
Right.
So she's just she's like a witch spellcaster in different mythology stuff. Apollo, who pulls up, that's the god of light. Mm-hmm. He's also song. He's got like a whole bunch of cool stuff that he does.
That's cool.
But he's a cool figure. And I guess it sounds like the Amazons were punished in some crazy way. And this is
Zeus got mad.
Yeah, Zeus is always
he's always mad,
popping off and causing problems and whatnot. But it's just really cool. Yeah. So basically, Circe, at the beginning, she's resistant to wanting to raise Diana. She's like, okay, cool, whatever. You give me this baby, I'll just let it die. But baby Diana kind of wins her over.
And by like refusing to die, she's like fighting snakes and like whatever else, like as like a toddler.
Yeah. And then we see all these really cool panels. I really liked these ones as well, where we see the exact same layout.
Yeah.
I forget what this transition would be called. Maybe we could check. It's not moment to moment. It's like the scene is staying consistent and all that's changing is the time.
Oh, yeah.
But basically it shows how obviously Diana is growing up, but also Circe is kind of becoming more human. Like over the course of the panels, you see before Circe was living really, really simply, basically just in this cave with like a pot where she'd do potions and food and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, every panel we see becomes more and more of a home.
Yeah.
And as we see sort of this little family of two, like, take shape, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I think I was looking it up and I'm pretty sure, as far as I can tell, this is like scene to scene, jumping across like time periods, across here. So, pretty cool. I like this. And it's also kind of one of our other just like interesting across the entire page. When I was reading this at first, for some reason it did not click when I was first reading this, like the first time I looked at this chapter, that they were going all the way across the pages, and then it clicked and came back together, which was good. But we get this nice little backstory, and then we get straight into the action. I mean, it's kind of crazy how much goes on in this first chapter. We get to see a lot of her powers. We get also these really cool action panels that Ben and I were talking about actually before starting the podcast today, where they kind of use these, and I wonder if this is like a thing, but they basically use kind of squares across the same. Are these supposed to look like panels inside panels?
It's panels. Yeah, exactly. So the part of what happens between panels, right, is the passage of time. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things is like the more panels, the more frequently they occur, the less time there is between transition points, right? So this is an example where they're choosing to show exactly what cool action beats Wonder Woman's doing. Mm-hmm. Not just like, oh, cool, she punches him. It's like we see her run, dodge, flip, roll, you know, and the way they're depicting that is her sort of leaping through these panels, like suspended throughout her sort of path as she's running. I'm definitely going to leave some screenshots of this on our Instagram, which is sort of how I've been sharing images. So if you guys want to check out some of these key things, follow us at Kickback Comics Pod on the gram.
Do it.
Drop some comments, do all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree, Antonio. That was like a big standout for me, was just all these different crazy panel layouts. We also get a look at Wonder Woman herself. She looks badass.
Yeah, she's
obviously she's recognizable still as a sort of like the traditional one, like, you know, the branding is still there. You see her, you're like, oh, that's Wonder Woman. But her suit is like a real suit of armor, basically. She's very menacing. One of her arms is covered in these like red runes and patterns, which we're going to figure out later on exactly what that's about. The Pegasus that she's flying on is literally like a black skeleton of a Pegasus. And that's really crazy and intimidating looking. She's got this absolutely enormous sword that she's swinging around. Like it looks like a Buster sword or something from like Final Fantasy. Yeah. Like it's like a huge square thing. She also has a helmet that you can't even see her face when she's when she's wearing it.
From the beginning, she rides in looking like menacing as hell.
She looks almost like a villain if you didn't know any better when she's sort of like swooping in to start saving people in her introduction. But yeah, it's you know, this is just a cool little getting us started on the journey, and we I was into it. It set me up. I liked it.
And we also get our first mention of our boy Steve, who kind of comes in at the end, which I had no idea who this was going to be.
Who Steve was?
Yeah. I
only knew him from the movie. I'm not a big Wonder Woman person. I don't know that much about her.
I just don't know as much. And I was like, I had to like tell myself which which group of comics I was reading, because she was like Steven. I was like Rogers. I was like, that's
right. I was
crazy.
I was like Chris Pine.
Right now, that's crazy. Yeah.
No, exactly. It's there's a bunch of characters that clearly you and I are meant to be recognizing that are little side characters where we go, whoa, look, there she is. And I think a lot of that just went right over our heads.
Right, I know.
We're like, oh, cool.
I know we did a little bit of like extra work and whatever else things here, but I think I mean, all I know is that this makes me want to dive in like even more, and I'm probably going to do some extra reading myself just to learn more about some of who these characters are.
Cool. Should we jump to issue 2?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Issue number 2, we got a bunch of action in issue number 1. It does not stop exactly in issue number 2, but in issue number 2, we basically we start learning about Diana's lasso named Nemesis, which is crafted from basilisk hide and Prometheus's blood. And what's kind of crazy about this thing is that it inflicts pain and in proportion to guilt. So, if you're a bad guy, you're going to have a bad time. She ends up defeating this Harbinger Prime, big harbinger of what is to come next.
It's like a big pterodactyl monster.
Yeah, it is like a big, thick pterodactyl monster that probably can't fly. But she ends up showing mercy. She says, let, whoever you're harbinging, let them know that I'm ready, and it's going to be a problem. And so we also, like I said, kind of in the end of that last chapter, but we get to learn a little bit more about our boy Steve. His name is Steve Trevor. As I said to Ben earlier, never trust a man with 2 first names. Granted, I don't know if this is a good or bad guy, but Steve Trevor arrives, and he and Diana, off rip, we learn that they have some kind of connection from beforehand. And we also just kind of learn to accept that Diana really is, her homeland is literally the underworld in hell. So what stood out to you in this chapter, Ben?
Yeah, it's sort of it feels like it's slowly revealing more and more of her like powers and move set, if you will, over the course of the chapter. Like her lasso, from what I understand, it's one of her like traditional weapons, but what it's supposed to do in the original comics is it just makes you tell the truth. It's like a truth serum. Yeah. So she'll like catch some criminals and wrap them up in her lasso, and they'll confess everything. I was stealing. Right. Yeah. And then, which is part of her whole thing about being like fair and just and whatnot. But in this case, it's sort of like, she's sort of torturing people with it. And the torture is proportionate to
how evil
or how much guilt
they've tortured themselves with it.
Yeah. Which is kind of, so it's just showing more, and it's red, it's glowing and red, and she's like whipping the thing with
great colors off this too.
Yeah, no, the panels, it all continues to be really compelling action. The art is really expressive and interesting looking. And it's just more characterization of Wonder Woman being like kind of a fearsome version.
Right. Well, it's interesting because we get her moveset like as like a superhero, but I think this is also one where we start really seeing her like her emotional moveset, if you will. Like what I totally forgot was at the beginning of this issue is when Steve also rolls up. He shows up in hell on the Wild Isle, and Diana she immediately starts taking care of him. He gets like yanked first by like the Hydra into like the water again, and she dives in to save him. It's also super sick like moment right here where she's like saving this man, carrying this like damsel of distress man
it's
out
very,
of the
like,
water,
gender
and she's
inverted.
like shredded, like she looks like ripped, which is super cool. But she comes in and basically saves him, and she and Cersei decide to kind of nurse him back to health. Well, she decides, and then Cersei kind of just like rolls with the punches and everything like that. And so she starts to get to know this guy, Steve. And I don't know anything about these. They seem like they kind of like, they like think that, they're like, okay, we're in hell. It's like you and me.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few things that are, I think the thing you pointed out about her, looking all powerful and muscular as she's like carrying him out of the water. It's obviously, it's cool to see the trope kind of inverted. Like it's like the anti-damsel in distress. Like we see like this guy very much is the one in distress, and she's the capable.
And they also have a great conversation about her height.
Right.
And, and what's funny about it is how short the conversation is about her height, where he's like, you're really tall, and she's like, we're like basically the same height, and he's like, well, there's like nobody like this tall, no like women this tall from where I'm from, and she's like, who cares? Like, let's talk about something
problem?
else.
Yeah, yeah.
She's like, let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
It's pretty boring to talk about, which is pretty cool.
Because this is a really big deal for her because she's never met a human before.
Right.
She literally only knows her mom, Circe, and all these random monsters and mythological figures and stuff that they encounter on the island. And she goes off and does quests and whatnot.
Right.
But this is the first time meeting a man. So she's obviously really finds him really interesting and wants to like learn about where he's from and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they sort of start to develop this bond. Another thing that's I think is cool that you brought up in our little issue summary is that the lasso is made from basilisk hide and Prometheus blood, right? We start to see like really cool, interesting witchcraft stuff become part of the story, and a lot of that is like they need to fetch specific rare ingredients, like the hide of a whatever, and all these sort of mythological items. So that's a really cool part of it too, is you see, the magic is sort of like performative and ritual based instead of just like, oh, I snap my fingers and I like shoot a thing. She's like, oh, I have to call upon my lasso that I created by all of this.
There's a lot of like, kind of like, I don't know if chanting is not the right word, but like there's like spell casts and like things that she has to kind of say leading into, and she's very kind of like ritualistic with the way that she does a lot of things in this as well. And another scene that I kind of want to bring up, which is a little bit related to the thing that I talked about before with Steve, is when she's talking to all like the military guys in the room, and it's just like this kind of like funny little moment that they definitely purposely did, where like the big general who's like yelling at her originally is like probably like 1.5 feet or like 2 feet shorter than her.
She's just towering over.
Yeah, she's towering over this guy. He's like trying to tell her what to do and tell her, we got to do this and we got to, you got to play ball, you got to follow us. And long story short, there's this great panel where she's kind of just like looking down at him, just with she knows what she's doing in this situation way more than anybody.
She's in complete control. She just like walks into this U.S. military operations thing and is like, all right, hey everybody, listen up. Yeah. But not even in like a rude way. Yeah, it's very matter of fact. Yeah,
it's like she's being very matter of fact, and then she says, simply, "Here's the problem, Commander. I think we both know you need me quite badly, given what just happened, but I don't need you at all. So perhaps rethink how you would like to approach this conversation. Let's try again when you've calmed down. Hopefully, that will be before any more innocent people have their lives lost. So she just flexes on this dude. Yeah. It's just like, dude,
super heroic.
I do not need you. You need me. So work with me." And let's save some people.
Another little thing, like a small detail that we'll see how like what this means over the course of her story. You see her eyes change color a lot throughout this. Have you noticed that?
I don't know if I did, actually.
When she's fighting, her eyes are red.
I guess.
And then in this part, you see she's like on the beach. Intense, her eyes are red, she has blood smeared across her face, and then when Steve walks up behind her and says Diana, her eyes like snap to blue.
Wow. Yeah, I don't even think I noticed that. I recognize the blue, but yeah.
So there's a bunch of different times throughout the story you see her eyes go back and forth from red to blue, and it may just be that that's part of her being in like combat mode or whatever. Right. And but maybe there's some deeper significance to it that we're gonna find out, because we keep learning that a bunch of these like physical features and stuff that she had, like her arm covered in red marks, like we're quickly gonna learn what that's about and whatever. So, but basically this issue wraps up with an absolutely huge monster.
Insane. I mean this is like the beauty, I think, of like the page turn in comics, right, where we get this great panel of Diana's face as she's saying, Mother, protect me in dangerous waters, goddesses, guide my hand, sisters, if I do not find you in this world, I will find you in the next. And then you flip the page and there's this gigantic, it's just such a great use of the medium to kind of give you this really big, daunting, huge moment of this creature called the tetracide.
Tetracide. It's high impact.
It is high impact.
Are you ready? Should we jump to
let's
number
jump
3?
To number 3. So this is when we really start getting into it with the tetracide. Diana faces the tetracide, which is kind of this sound-based monster, horrific thing that kills through mind and soul. She's wielding her enchanted satchel. She's summoning a whole bunch of weapons, which we'll talk about. She's also having these flashbacks that show kind of how more kind of the backstory of Steve and Diana when he was in hell with her. And then we also learn kind of what Ben was alluding to here, that she sacrifices her arm to save Steve from hell. And she later she has a mechanical prosthetic as well. And we learn that there's also a little bit of other magic that's going on there too. And then we meet Barbara Minerva as well, who is studying Amazonian history. And I mean, what we ended up looking this up is that she's the cheetah, which I do not know.
I don't really know either.
I mean, we're gonna do some more diving into this stuff for sure. I think, who knows, maybe we'll even do. We'll learn more.
I'm definitely gonna just keep reading this as it comes out. I think I've found all the absolute stuff being like really, really cool so far.
Yeah, really compelling.
We'll definitely learn as we go.
But but Cheetah is one of her kind of like regular villains, and it's very interesting that she shows up in this way, because it's very much like she at the very least in the beginning, she just starts off being very interested in Diana and her history, and she knows about, like, and I can't even remember if it's in this issue, but at a certain point she basically admits to Diana that she knows who she's like, you're an Amazon, and nobody has kind of come up with that understanding of her as of yet.
Right, because when Apollo,
she calls her Wonder Woman. Also, she's the first one in the beginning of this issue. She calls her Wonder Woman.
Right, and she says that's like an ancient Amazonian whatever.
Right.
We don't know that much about the Amazons yet, because when Apollo dropped off baby Diana to Circe, he said, "I decree."
No more.
She can't learn anything about Amazons, and she can't utter the word Amazon.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's like, I can't tell if it's that she can't utter it, or if it's that Circe can't utter it.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Circe is not allowed to like tell her about it.
Right.
But she sort of like manages to like incept her into figuring it out.
Right, into figuring it out, and then it's kind of just like built into her. But they do this really cool thing. One thing we didn't talk about is one of the cool things that they do with Circe and the word Amazon in the beginning is that every time that she tries to say it, they like scratch it out.
Right.
Which I think is just like a little fun way of doing that for sure. So with issue number 3, this is when we get, the Tetracide showed up, so we're getting some serious big boy action throughout this one. We're getting...
It's like a Godzilla type threat.
Yeah, this is a Godzilla type threat. Diana gets to really flex her real and proverbial muscle in this. She's basically flying around the entire this thing, wrapping it up in the... I can't tell if this is like this is the lasso. This is Nemesis, the lasso. And she's fighting against this. We've also got Pegasus, who's fighting with her through this. One
of the cool things that this just reminded me to bring up is, because we're reading a trade paperback, right? Which is a bunch of collected issues of this series, which is coming out. Like, there's a new issue published every so often, right? One of the things that they do to encourage collectors to spend a bunch of money on different series is, for each issue there's often a bunch of variant covers done by different artists. So if you are like a diehard collector, you can collect all the different variants. Also, the variants will be of different, there'll only be so many printings for certain variants and whatnot. But this collected edition shows us all the different variant covers.
Yeah, super
and
cool.
as they go on, so it's just even more opportunities for us to see Wonder Woman, like this version of Wonder Woman, depicted by completely different artists and completely different styles.
Yeah,
and they're amazing.
Yeah.
Some of these, it's like, I want to get some like prints of them.
Yeah.
And there's like this crazy watercolor one with her and skeleton Pegasus here. I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, because that isn't really something like alternative variant covers. That's not really something I feel like we've mentioned on the pod so far.
Not so much.
Or really thought about yet.
Yeah, maybe we talked about it a little bit with like Superman and stuff like that, but we're getting a whole lot and a lot of really, really cool ones in this as well.
When I finished reading this, I literally spent a whole like couple minutes just flipping through the back, looking at all of these different covers, because they're all just so cool.
They are super cool.
All right. Anyways, jumping back into the narrative here.
Back to number 3. So we're fighting against the Tetracide. We're using the lasso. We get a whole bunch of action kind of in the beginning with some really cool panels jumping around. Again, this is like a lot of circles that Ben mentioned earlier. A lot of kind of like, this is interesting because there's a lot of rounded edges in this one as well. I was also noticing this really, really cool one where when she's kind of wrapping up the Tetracide with the lasso, you get this moment where they kind of put a square around her, and then you get also kind of the zoomed in panel of her face at the same time as well in this kind of action shot, which is pretty cool.
One of the coolest things about the way she's fighting is like she keeps pulling all these different magical weapons out of this bag.
Yeah, she's
right? And that
just got
she
pulling them out.
She whips out like this huge axe, like she's using the sword and the lasso, and then the thing manages to fling the sword away, and she just no problem whips out this really cool weapon. I don't know. I always since I was a kid like thought medieval or like classical weapons were just like super dope.
They're pretty cool.
It's sick to see her just have this like arsenal of. She's got a sword. She's got an axe. I'm sure she's gonna like have a shield and she's gonna fight with all these cool, iconic Greek-looking weapons and stuff. And,
yeah, very, very true.
It's just cool to see her do it.
I agree. Yeah. So we've got this fight against the Tetracide, and then we also get this flashback to her and Steve kind of bonding back when they are both in hell together, fighting against a Hydra, which is pretty crazy. I mean, it just kind of shows that she's grown up in just like she is a true like fighter. In the real sense, where she's not experiencing, even against this Tetracide, she's not exhibiting like fear necessarily. Like, I mean, maybe there's some worry, but like she's not afraid for herself, for example. She's like afraid for the other people and the other things that would be affected by this, which is pretty interesting.
Well, the whole, but yeah, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. She has to fight for survival, basically, like on a weekly, daily. We don't know how often, but it's like
hourly basis in hell. But so we get them fighting this Hydra, but then Diana again showing a lot of her character. She wants to help Steve get back to the real world, and she's kind of showing Cersei this spell, and Cersei's like, "That's crazy, don't do it." There's basically what we see kind of is alluded to is that there's a sacrifice. It looks like it probably says like a sacrifice of like the highest order or something like that. And Cersei's like, don't do it, and she doesn't think that she's going to do it. And we get this crazy moment where Diana's like sitting near Cersei's bed in the middle of the night, and Cersei wakes up and is like, "What's going on? This is, why are you awake?" And we basically end up learning that Diana, as this sacrifice, cuts her dominant arm off. It's like the dominant arm of a warrior.
A great warrior.
Yeah, a great warrior. It would be a worthy sacrifice.
And it's so ominous the way it reveals it, because she's like, all the lighting is like black and red.
You can't even see her face most of the time.
Yeah, she's in like a hood, and she's huddled by this like stove, I think, and Cersei's coming over questioning her, like, "Are you going to do it? Like, you should remember, it's too dangerous. You shouldn't do it." And then
she's like, "I already did it."
It just reveals she's sitting there solemnly just in front of her decapitated arm. She's just chilling. Which is crazy amount of pain tolerance or whatever.
Yeah, she really is just chilling.
Cut her
but then
arm off.
They just like, it's kind of crazy because they also immediately after just like do this spell, and Steve is just like teleported home like right away after that.
And it's a very again, the spell is all this beautiful green lighting, which contrasts to the red lighting. Right, she cut her arm off. Which is some more color theory stuff.
And this also gives us some more context for her, kind of this next moment where we're back in Gateway City, and she's fighting against the Tetracide, and it's got a grip on her arm, and she's like, she doesn't think that she's going to get away, and then she utters some magic spell, and the arm just disappears.
Right. And we see she has like basically her arm is like cut off at the shoulder. She has like a stump of a shoulder. And then she pulls out of her bag like this temporary like mechanical arm, but it looks pretty cumbersome. Like it looks like it'll do the job, but it doesn't look terribly effective, or certainly as cool as her.
She's trying to do it. So we learn that she's got this mechanical arm as well, but we also kind of learn that there is this like aspect where she kind of alludes to the fact that she can
get
maybe get her arm back. She's telling everybody to evacuate. This is when we meet Barbara for the first time, or the first time that they actually meet. Barbara saw her on TV before, and she almost knocks her over. This was like an interesting moment because it almost like it's like weird. They almost like set her up in like an interesting kind of moment where Wonder Woman's like catching her, and she's like, "I have you."
Right.
Like whatever else. I just thought it was kind of like an interesting thing of her. I don't know if it's supposed to be like her saving her or what. But then, this is the first time that Diana is called Wonder Woman to her face by somebody else.
I just remembered another like highlight of this chapter is when they're describing the Tetracide and its powers, right? The comic switches to a depiction of this ancient Greek like pottery, right? And this is actually fun. When I was abroad in Berlin, one of the classes I took was like we went to one of the like art museums in Berlin every day, and like we did like a whole semester on like Greek pottery.
That's super cool.
And this is basically like their version of comics. Yeah, like they would paint.
Right. Shout out Scott.
Yeah, literally. So they like ancient Greek storytelling. They would paint their paint these stories on clay and pottery and these vases and whatnot. And then as you sort of turn the vase, it's like the panels telling the story of what's going on. And that's how they explain to us how the tetracide is going to kill the city, which crazy. It's going to make a sound that is going to drive everybody who hears it to run to the tetracide and like throw themselves into its mouth.
It does not come to you. You come to it. And,
which then shows like, Wonder Woman has to try to solve this problem, not just with brute strength, although she is,
incredibly strong. She's got to use the big brain.
The way to actually save people is she decides she's going to cast a spell to make everybody in the city deaf, and she very responsibly broadcasts this with these two news reporters. Yeah,
these guys are doing the news report on the tetracide. I don't know why they're still there, to be honest with you, but they're hanging out. They're doing the thing for the world, and she has this whole. Were you going to read some of the stuff over there?
We can read some of it. She says, "This will be difficult to hear and understand, but to save you from this fate, I'm going to briefly make all of you deaf, the entire city. Many of you will not believe me, but I assure you, you're about to become believers. Panic and chaos that brings will be almost as deadly as the tetracide itself. And so I need you to be calm. I need you, especially those of you that are hearing this message now, to help your friends, help your neighbors. Kindness and compassion are all that will save us now. I come here to save your city, but today it seems it will be up to each of you to save your city instead. I know you can do it. Wonder Woman believes in you."
There you go. She calls herself Wonder Woman for the first time. But again, this is like Diana's character, I think, right? In this face of crazy insanity, death, like whatever else, she's preaching passion and kindness.
For your neighbor.
Yeah, very much so. And then we get this crazy thing where she casts a spell and there's all this green that goes all over the entire city. But she's just, it's interesting. She is different. I'm sure that we'll have a different experience when we read Batman. I think it's a very different experience from reading Superman as well, just in the way that they like go about handling all this stuff. And again, like I don't know, would you make an argument that like she is raised in probably the worst conditions of all of them, because she's literally raised in hell.
In Greek hell, Greek mythological hell.
I can't imagine. It's super great.
No, it's amazing. She definitely is. Her coolness factor is high.
It's very high. I agree.
And it's cool. It's just she's it's like she's kind of reminding me of like she's like the heroic leader archetype, you know what I mean? She's like in the MCU, like she's very like Captain America,
right?
Like she's the one that's like showing up, handling the situation, inspiring people, trying to get people to safety. She's really I don't know. She's cool. Doing it. It's very cool. It's the traditional hero, real true hero.
Yes, I totally agree.
That kind of wraps up this issue.
Yeah, wraps us up on issue number 3. Heading into issue number 4, we meet a couple of new characters who we definitely had to look up a little bit. So Etta Candy and also her sister are people that we meet. So she is kind of reimagined as a private investigator. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head right now what she was originally, but she's a private investigator in this one. She's kind of coming to help Diana and Steve. Diana also is reflecting in this chapter on Cersei's teachings and the cost of love and identity and different things like that. And then this issue is kind of building up toward Diana's confrontation with the next wave of divine threats that are going through here. So in this issue, we basically have Steve and Diana, kind of crazy. I just looked at this panel again here. They show up at these two women's door, just saying, hey, Steve says, hey, Etta, can we come in? And it's the two of them standing there, Steve and Diana, and in the back is like the tetracide, just like, it's like very casual that they're showing up at their place. But basically what we end up learning is that these two women, or at least Etta, is a witch. as well. And so,
well, the modern equivalent,
the modern equivalent of a witch.
She has like an essential oils store or whatever. She has all of these ingredients.
But she has a lot of like actual witchy ingredients though. They've also got like the safe. Like, I mean, it's not like a safe, but it's like a little secret box that has like a bunch of extra real like witchy stuff.
It's very cool, and it's like drawing the parallel from like this Diana and Circe's ancient tradition of witchcraft to like the modern day women that are still sort of like keeping that legacy alive.
Right, and all of this is all the things that they're looking for and kind of building this are for Diana to do a spell to get her arm back.
Another key ingredient she needs that's crazy, she needs a lot of blood from them. So you see all three of them have donated all this blood, and she's gathered ingredients and whatnot from their store. And then she does this crazy blood ritual.
Yeah, she's like blood on like her face and
all
like
over
everything
her
else.
body.
Kind of crazy.
And does all this chanting, basically casts a spell to create another arm for herself. And it's
pretty wild. They're all like talking about, they're like, man, did we like, Steve, it was your idea to give blood or whatever else. I honestly didn't even notice that. Like, I was kind of reading that all of them did, but I didn't notice that they all have like the wraps on their arms and stuff like that too.
Right. We also jump, while this ritual is sort of taking place, we jump back to this flashback with Circe again. And we basically see her
she's talking with somebody at first. I did not know. I did not have any idea who this was going to be off rip. But she's kind of praying and having this conversation with this being, and then who does it end up being?
It's a Hecate who appears, and she's sort of the goddess of witchcraft, among a bunch of other things in Greek mythology. So she's clearly like one of the higher god pantheon members, not just like mythological person like Circe. She's super impressive, and this is sort of like the mother figure to Circe, while Circe's being the mother figure to Diana, and is the person that she prays to and channels magic through, and whatever, all this stuff. There's a lot of parallels, actually, funnily enough, between this and Hades 2, which just came out on Nintendo, which is I'm
gonna play.
If you guys are into Greek mythology or video games, definitely check out Hades.
Or both.
Hades 2.
That's even better if you're into both.
Oh, it's so good. It's like a 10 out of 10, and it's such a cool like
Hades 1 is a 10 out of 10. I'm sure Hades 2 is a 10 out of 10.
The gameplay is even better. But the main character it's a female protagonist who's raised by Hecate.
Whoa,
in
interesting.
Hades 2.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so Hecate is very similar role to both of them.
Fascinating.
Which is pretty cool. But yeah, so we see more fleshing out of the mother-daughter relationship. We see Hecate is really worried about
they're worried about Diana's future to a certain extent. Granted, they kind of know like how it's going to go, because Circe also can kind of see the future. I don't know if it's that she can fully see the future. Diana seems to think that she like can see parts of it and different things like that. But this is when they're worried about Diana, and Circe starts coming up with the ideas for the lasso and different things, different other tools.
Because they know she's going to have a really big role to play in some big future conflict, and that she's probably, they have to make sure that she's going to be up for the task.
Yep. They got to start prepping her. And then we jump back to Gateway City, and Diana's just like covered in blood, but she's got her arm back. Arm is back, and they're like, please wipe your face.
You know what this also...
There's so much blood on you.
Sorry. This also reminds me of did you ever watch Full Metal Alchemist?
I watched like the beginning of it. I have not watched the full one.
This arm is very like, Elric Brothers inspired to me. Part of the whole thing with the magic in Full Metal Alchemist is the law of equivalent exchange. Right.
Like
for everything
given or taken, something must be given.
Right. Exactly. So that's a cool. It's a cool thing in this story. And one of the brothers loses his whole body in Full Metal Alchemist, and the other brother loses his whole arm.
Yeah.
Right. And he manages to trap his soul in a armor.
Yeah.
So he's not. Yeah. So it's. But anyways, it's very similar aesthetic. Even like it looks like tattoos that characters in Full Metal Alchemist have. There's this one character called Scar who actually has an arm covered in like markings, very similar looking to this. So
very interesting. Yeah,
I don't know if that's on intentional or if it just is another cool arm thing, but shout out Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, shout out anime in general. We'll get to some manga and stuff like that eventually. But so we're back in Gateway City. Diana's got her arm back. We're like, okay, what are we doing about the tetracite now? She's running out. This kind of portion of this was one of my one of the scenes that I had kind of pointed out here, where she she's got her, she's really using a lot of tools. She's got her sword, she's got her lasso, and then she also pulls out this little kind of like potion looking thing. And what she ends up doing is throwing it and smashing it against the pier out on the water, and it ends up letting out screams, which is what kind of attacks the tetracide. The reason she's doing this, the tetracide, is because the people didn't come to it because she made them deaf. It is now going into the city to try and find them, and so she's trying to lure it away. But this this potion that she throws, the screams and whichever else kind of spiral out of the center of where that is, and there's actual words. And I think there's one panel or one page that shows it kind of like all over the page, all encompassing. And what I think is really interesting is actually also the next page. And actually, I noticed there's another panel here as well that kind of has it. But it's like that the size of the sound is represented interestingly in the actual page itself, right? We have this first one where it's kind of all encompassing, and then in comparison to the tetracide itself, the sound that looked like it was just going to be like all over the page is actually dwarfed in size, but kind of shows how it's almost showing how far that sound goes with the visual cue of that, which I think is super interesting. Yeah.
And we see the tetracide is getting drawn back out of the city to this pier while Wonder Woman's trying to fight it in the harbor, probably just to keep it away from all the civilians and whatnot. And then the way we see she casts another spell, she gets her sword back, her huge Athena blade, that is what she keeps calling it, and she makes it
even bigger.
Dude, she flies it up in the sky and then makes it like skyscraper sized, basically, and then flies down. That's another thing we see is she can fly just herself. Yep. She doesn't even need to be on Pegasus, which is crazy.
Yeah, which is kind of hilarious.
She's literally, she chunks this thing. With
she slices. I thought it was Dunzo over town, but she slices through basically kind of like I don't know if it's like a third of this
huge chunk.
Yeah.
And then you can see it cuts to the White House, and we can see some like American political operatives watching this on TV, and basically you can see they're like,
it's a problem.
We have a huge problem, and they're not even referring to the tetracide. They're talking about the fact that this woman just dropped a
gigantic sword on this thing.
Yeah, they're like, that is a military threat right there. Yeah. That's sort of. Is there anything else from this issue you think we should hit? I
think it's most of it. She slices open. We also get one little fun thing is we get a little kind of, speaking of anime, this looks a little anime inspired little variant that we get at least in our kind of collector copies of this, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, that one's beautiful. This is the start of
the start of this next one here. Yeah, so in issue 5, we basically get her final battle with this gigantic being here. We also get some flashbacks showing Cersei helping, kind of creating the lasso, imbuing it with Prometheus's fire and Amazonian spirit. The lasso's kind of new powers that we start recognizing become central to the way that she wins these fights coming up.
There's more really cool action beats in this one.
Yeah, and so she ends up using kind of these new powers of the lasso to kind of complete the victory over this gigantic monster. And we'll dive in. I mean, I think this is one of the kind of like little funny things that stands out to me here, right, is you just get to see how obviously she slices the thing in half, which is such a crazy moment. But then you have the U.S. military pulling up, like trying to almost like they don't realize it, but they're like raining on her parade where they're firing missiles, and then the monster kind of knocks them. The what is this? The tetracide knocks these all the way back, and then she flies up.
Yeah, the missiles. To be clear, bunch of the Air Force or whatever,
like F-16s pull up.
Shot a bunch of missiles at the tetracide. It deflected them right back at the buildings, and then Wonder Woman has to freaking save the city from the missiles that the military shot.
Yeah, and Pegasus also saves some stuff, and then she flies up literally right next to the guys that are in the F-16s, and she's like, "Hey, I need you to not do that again." And they're like, "Sure,
yes, ma'am."
Yes, ma'am. I don't even know how you're up here with us right now, but yeah, the dude's like, "Whoa!" Like whatever else when she flies off.
And so again, really cool moment of Pegasus breathing fire, and so basically Diana manages to stop 2 of the missiles, but then the last one looks like it's going to hit a building, and Pegasus sort of comes and saves the day by himself, which is cool. Shout out to Pegasus, very cool. Pegasus, really cool, basically like animal hero himself from Greek mythology. It was Perseus cut the head off of a gorgon, and Pegasus climbed out of its neck. And was like birthed. So it's not even like Pegasus is like a lot of people use it as like that means winged horses, but in the traditional Greek mythology, it's a horse. It's like
right. Well, isn't that what she says? Where she's talking to Steve, and this is earlier on in one of the earlier issues, but she's like, "Yeah, this is like Pegasus," and he's like, "Your thing is like a Pegasus," and she's like, "No, this is." The Pegasus.
Right, exactly.
This is the. And
then Pegasus has a bunch of he appears in different stories, like different heroes ride him at different times. Like Belafonte, there's this dude called Belafonte. I'm pretty sure he like kills a dragon, flying on Pegasus, puts a bunch of like lead on a spear, and it's Pegasus is cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Fights alongside different heroes throughout Greek mythology, which is pretty lit. Anyways, Pegasus tangent over.
So we get into this, and we get a lot more backstory on the creation of the lasso itself. And
this is another lasso.
Right, that's true. This is another lasso number 2. I think there's 3.
There's 3 lassos that Circe kind of like prepares for her. The first lasso was red. That was the like pain one.
Yeah.
And this one is green.
The first one is the first one is Nemesis.
Yeah.
And then this is Sacrifice, I believe.
Cool.
Yes, Sacrifice, right? So Nemesis is the red one, Sacrifice is this new green one. And what's interesting about this is that will transform anything, and but what the lasso actually is wrapped around will determine kind of what that thing actually transforms into. And what's interesting is that Circe sends Diana on a bit of a mission, and I think it's just kind of her first time of using this thing, but she ends up like choking out this harpy, I think it is. And granted, I don't see anything like, I mean, is the idea that something is supposed to transform when that happens? Or I think it's that she just rolls up and murks this harpy. And Diana expresses to Circe that it feels a bit intense. It feels a bit
she
cruel.
said she found it cruel. So basically, you're right. We see Diana fighting this harpy. She strangles it to death or something with the lasso, and then we see something happens off screen. We can imagine it changes or transforms.
Into something, yeah.
But so she says, and ask her how.
That's a great point. That's why it's even more cruel, because she's like, it's transforming into something. Yeah, we don't see what the harpy.
Transforms into, but she said, Diana says, good. It worked very well. You are much more skilled in transmogrification than I am. You are much more skilled in transmogrification. I am less fluent. Speak plainly, Diana. And Diana says, I found it a bit cruel, and is kind of looking away from Circe. So again, this is referencing the fact that what Circe is good at in Greek mythology is transforming things into other shapes, which is pretty dope. I'm like obsessed with all these.
No, please bring up all the references.
So then we basically see Circe's like, Diana, not everything you're not going to be able to befriend every monster, and many are going to try to kill you.
Yeah. Also, Diana can talk to animals. I don't know if we talked about that yet.
She can talk to animals. She also talks to her weapons. Yeah. Like just after she chunked that tetracide with her blade, we see it shrink back to smaller size, and she catches it, and she's like, "Hello, my friend. Thank you."
Right.
Which we don't know if it can talk back. Maybe we'll find out. But maybe. She's talking to her weapons. She's talking to
animals, everything, and so
she's like a Disney princess. Of war.
Of war. Yeah, that's a good point. But like you were saying, she basically Circe's saying to her, like, you're not going to be able to befriend everything. There's going to be things that try and kill you that you can't, even before. There's this great quote where she says, these things will try and kill you even before shoving away your hand of friendship. And basically saying that this lasso is made directly for that. And Circe kind of walks off after that.
It looks like the harpy nearly killed you, even with Kia, or whatever they call it, in hand. Perhaps you should take a moment to be grateful for her instead of cursing her compromises. And then we see that Diana prays and has a whole conversation to Hecate. Yeah. So they have their whole own relationship as well. We see Hecate has a relationship with Circe and also Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's interesting that. Do you understand the point of like Hecate kind of like, because she has the lasso in her hand, and she's kind of constantly like toying with it and like stretching it, and I mean, maybe she's just like feeling the magic of what it is.
Yeah, it seems that way. But she's basically trying to tell Diana that
Like
that lasso is your mother, girl. She made it with love and pain, fire and blood. It is a lasso of transmogrification because transformation is what she knows best. And for you, she demands only the best. And it was you that made her believe in transformation even more than me. It was you.
Yeah. And then Diana, there's this great moment where Diana kind of comes back and basically apologizes to Cersei and says that she understands a bit more about what is going on. And she says, it's not the weapon I would have made for myself, but I see now that it's a good thing. As myself is limited, my vision narrow, I will always benefit from other eyes. I was wrong to doubt you, but you must teach me how to master it. So...
yeah. So now we see her facing off against the Tetracide again. The Tetracide is absolutely enormous, Godzilla-type monster. She floats into the air and wraps this whip around, or this lasso. She wraps this green lasso around herself. And she says...
I was not ready for this. I knew there was some transforming going on with that thing, but I was not ready.
Yeah, we're about to see. So she's basically, I am become her. She is both terrible and tragic, cursing and cursed, forever entwined in justice, a living hell. This mantle must I accept today for a far greater good, in hope and faith that I will once again someday be Diana of the Wild Isle, Diana, last of the Amazons, Diana, fighter of Circe, Diana, daughter of Circe, mother, please do not... Diana, daughter of Circe, mother, please do not forget me now. And she, for now, I become, and we see her transform into this huge monster.
Medusa.
Yep.
Yeah, crazy.
And none that see my face shall live. And so, yeah, she basically turned herself into a kaiju. She's like now the size of the Tetracide. She's bigger than the skyscrapers, and she's, as many people...
she's all snaked out.
Yeah, know the monster Medusa. She's like a snake woman. Her head is full of snakes. And in Greek mythology, she was basically cursed by Athena. It's one of the like messed up things that Athena does. Basically, this woman... depending on the telling, has sex in Poseidon's temple or is raped in Poseidon's temple.
And in this story, she is raped inside of Poseidon's temple.
Okay, there you go.
Or one of Athena's temples by Poseidon. Excuse me.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Right. So it's sort of there's always tension between Poseidon and Athena in a lot of different stories, and this is sort of one of them, right? Maybe I don't have it all like perfectly straight, but anyways, Athena in punishment turns her into this monster, and it's maybe a thing of jealousy, maybe it's a thing of rage, maybe it's a messed up thing of like punishing someone for being sexually assaulted, basically.
Yeah.
Anyone who looks her in the face turns to stone.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they also seem to allude to something kind of interesting here with Barbara kind of mentioning, saying she tells everybody about this history of Medusa, and then says the gods are cruel, but also maybe that's not how it happened. Records are dicey in these matters, and stories often contradict. But Medusa's actual curse wasn't the transformation, and then that's exactly where they go into the curse is that all who look Medusa in the eye are turned to stone. And I mean, it's crazy how like this fight was like huge, and she sliced this thing in half, and then she turns to Medusa, and bam, this thing is turned into stone immediately.
Yep. In one fell swoop. The huge Tetracide is a statue in the harbor.
Yeah.
But now we see there's a problem because Diana can't just immediately turn back into Wonder Woman. She's flying through the city. Basically, there's like a even more dangerous kaiju on the loose, basically.
Yeah.
And Steve. Yeah, they're watching this on the news on this live stream, and he's like, I got to go get her. He
covers his eyes.
Yeah, covers his eyes.
Some real trust too, right? And I guess that shows kind of the bond between the two of them. I mean, granted, she did save you from hell, so
right by cutting off her own arm.
Yeah, so you got to get out there, brother.
But yeah, basically, this is his big hero moment. And he finds her in the city. He runs up to her, and Diana, he yells up, Diana, I know you can hear me. I know you understand that this is not who you are. You're a great hero and warrior who saved me from the underworld. You cut off your arm, an incredible sacrifice to free me and send me home. You must remember you are Diana of the Witch Idols, daughter of Circe, Diana, last of the Amazons, Wonder Woman, hero of Gateway City. And basically, you see he takes off his blindfold, and she quickly begins to turn back into herself as he is able to remind her who she is. And they embrace, and she says, one good man can save the world, Steve. Thank you.
Right. And there's this kind of like this underlying current of like hope of whatever else that's running underneath this. Where even, and it's an interesting
and looking
thing
out for each other.
She, in that moment, what's interesting about this too is that, and this is where I think that hope thing really jumps in, is that in this moment, there is no Wonder Woman in the world anymore, and they still prevail because of a good person, right?
Right. It's also a cool thing. You know, we keep talking about this with Steve in this book, but it's another sort of like traditional gender role reversal thing, right? Where Diana is the warrior and Steve is the one who runs up and gives her a hug and reminds her who she is.
Yeah.
You know, which is like the classic, you know, in a Disney movie,
right.
The other way around.
We did the swap-a-rooney.
But it's not played for like laughs or in any kind of a derogatory way or anything. It's sort of showing like, look, all of these roles are cool. It just doesn't always have to be in the dynamic that you thought about before.
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly. Which is super
and Steve is still being very heroic in this way, even though it's not.
Right. And that's, you know, that's an interesting thing you point out too, because it's also like, it's an interesting acknowledgement of like, we think of these like older stories where those roles are kind of the stereotypical, where the woman's running up like that, and we don't view it in the same way as it being also a heroic act.
Absolutely.
To do that, right? Or at least, you know, in those moments, maybe when you're younger, maybe don't understand it as well, you don't view it as that, but you can see, and I think that's a great thing that you pointed out, where this is also a heroic act, no matter who it is that is doing it as well.
And it's cool that you know, we saw Wonder Woman calling people out on the news, like the real way we're going to get through this is by looking out for your neighbors. The whole city's going to go deaf. You got to go take care of each other.
Yeah.
And that is a cool through line to have through all of this is, you know, Wonder Woman's fighting a big monster, but the heroism isn't just for the superhero. It's for all the people in the city and whatever. It's all good stuff. This is cool stuff you want. Like, this is another classic example of like superhero storytelling being used as a fable. Like, and it's connecting to these traditional myths that were fables, telling these same stories and whatever.
Very true.
It's good ways for like, obviously it's cool stories for us to read, but also if this is maybe being read by kids or younger people, this is all, you know, the messaging is valuable.
It's valuable. And I think that, I think this especially too is also, and not that the other ones necessarily weren't of reading Absolute Superman, but this, I think that you make a good point. Like this is kid friendly enough, I think, to have those kinds of things too.
I mean, the violence is like,
the violence is maybe intense.
It's pretty gory. It's not gross gory,
that's
but
true.
Like,
I forgot about all the blood when and that's not even like, she does cut open the monster. I guess
that's cool though. Hey, but like, that's the type of stuff for a
teens, tweens, maybe, right?
Dude, I'm giving this to a kid, and they're just going to think that's so cool and mature. Picture when you're like 10 years old and you get this book and you're like oh, look, there's real blood. Like, there's never blood in my movies. Like,
yeah, right. And so after this kind of reflection that we just had on this really kind of important symbolic moment, then we get a great little action moment right here, where after this thing is turned to stone, Diana shoots up into the air and then just like punches the shit out of this thing, and it just it's like dust. It's absolutely dust, and it's just great at the end of all of this, which is so much fun.
And then the final moments, what happens, bro?
Give me so the final moments. It's like we're wrapping up this first kind of arc here, right? Like all the main characters that we have right now are like all on the beach. Somehow they got there super quickly, but they're all on the beach. They're talking. They're like, "Oh, it's crazy," you know.
We did it.
Very much like Lois Simos, Dora reference. We did it, and they're talking about. Diana has a great thing here. You know, when my feelings about the injustice of Medusa's plight burn bright, I try to remember that all of us, even the gods, are vulnerable to our hearts becoming twisted with hate. Hate and fear drive us only to the worst versions of ourselves. We need to be better than that, all of us. Thank you for helping me find myself. I am in your debt again, right? And then, so we have this moment where everything's like wrapping up, and then Diana just gets yanked down by this gigantic blue hand into a gigantic hole in the earth. And the last line of this arc here is what the bunch of symbols that are at the top of your keyboard.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It ends on yeah. She gets ripped down. We can assume to some kind of underworld
thing, and then
what the fuck?
And now we get into our second arc. This is issue number 6. And
why don't we take a little break real quick, and then we can jump into this final little mini arc.
Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm ready for the break and the arc. Let's do it.
Sick.
Hell yeah.
All right, where we at?
Where we at?
We're back from break.
We're back from break.
We've got some Modelo's.
We've got some. We're having some libations in the studio, and we're about to dive into the second part of this, issue number 6. So, as you may remember, Diana just got yanked down by some gigantic blue hand, and what we end up seeing is that we are now in the throne room of Hades in the Underworld.
And this is the point where our artist switches up.
Yes, that's a great point. Yes, our artist switches up. We're going from a little bit cartoony, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all, but a little bit less realistic. And now we're getting like hyper, maybe not hyper super, but we're getting pretty damn realistic in this part of this.
It's a big contrast. One of the things, if you remember from our Scott McCloud episode, is like, when things are simplified, sometimes that actually allows the artists to convey emotion easier. Mm-hmm. Like in the way where if someone was to draw or show you a picture of a photorealistic face, it's a little bit more difficult for us to figure out.
There's a lot of nuance there.
Like, are they happy? Are they sad? Like, are they, those lines are a bit more blurred versus kind of the more simple the depiction is. Like, if you think about a smiley face, like Watchmen or whatever, obviously that's like an extreme example, just very simple smiley face.
Versus like a smirk or like whatever else, which are these little, smaller types of things.
It's harder to tell what's going on in Mona Lisa's face than like SpongeBob's.
Yes. That's, wow. Thank God we got there. The comparison between Mona Lisa and SpongeBob. I hope we're the first people to ever do that.
Yeah. It's our genius kickback over here at Kickback Comics.
We're kicking back and we're doing comics.
But again, it's not that one is better than the other. No. It's that they're better at different things. And this is a cool thing in this story where we're getting, it's not going from SpongeBob to Mona Lisa.
You heard it ridiculous. Here first. SpongeBob and the Mona Lisa are equal artistic creations.
Fight me. Fight me. Yeah.
Put SpongeBob in the Louvre. And then get it stolen.
Yeah, facts.
But so, Hades pulls her down. We get a bunch of different flashbacks that reveal Diana climbing up to Mount Prometheus, actually hanging out with Prometheus, and then her battle with the last basilisk to help create the lassos as well. Hades kind of admires her strength a bit, but really does not like Defiance for sure. And then this issue ends where he basically unveils that he has Cersei in chains in his throne room, basically kind of saying to Diana, "You got to play my game, or there's going to be some problems." But so first off, again, this is just so interesting because she just looks different. She looks different. And again, we get a bunch of different facial expressions here. She kind of strips on out of her armor.
Which is a little bit of a sexy moment, actually. I feel like they do that a little intentionally. Like Hades is depicted as like this blue ghost-like figure. He kind of looks like a Cthulhu type thing, almost very sort of scary. And he says you've got to remove all your armor and weapons. And so we
basically say that all of her armor and everything that she's got on her is like a weapon. She's like taking off her like little like tiara thing, and it's like that's also something that she can probably throw, whatever else. But we also, I think, what that's also then this is also giving us another moment of like, I think there is a little bit of what you're talking about too, for sure. And then, but we also get like I don't mean she's shredded.
It's not sexy in like a gross way or anything. It's literally just
that this moment is sexual necessarily, but it's like
it's just it's lingering on Wonder Woman's body as she takes all of her armor off, and it's like she's ripped.
She's
like really yoked, but she's also still attractive. It's not in like a off-putting way. And then we see she has her armor is all laid out on the ground. We also get to see he makes her take all the weapons out of her bag, and
we see the sword. We see the 3 different lassos officially out, and we haven't seen the blue one.
No, I don't think so.
Do we ever see what the blue one does?
Maybe we're gonna find out later on. But so we see she's got her armor. She's down into her sort of like undergarment, sort of, and then she's got a green lasso, a blue lasso, and a red lasso, and she's standing here in front of Hades.
Yeah, and then he tells one of his little like crony blue things to go bring him the red lasso, and Wonder Woman Diana's like, you probably don't want to do that. And then the thing tries to grab it, and it basically gets like shocked, zapped, whatever else. And we learn that nobody can wield that lasso but but her.
So then we basically go to the flashback of like one of these fetch quests, kind of, to go get the ingredients for when we're getting more Lasso backstory here.
Yeah,
and
wow,
we see
what a photorealistic. You got this moment of her like climbing up the cliff. I mean, I didn't even like dive into this as much as I should have maybe the first time reading this, but this is like super realistic. We're getting all the muscle, we're getting the flash of the lightning against her, all this kind of stuff.
The
like
rain,
that.
it's amazing. It looks so cool.
Yeah, it looks great.
And it says before on Mount Prometheus, on the border of myth and reality.
Yeah, crazy.
Which is pretty dope.
And she's basically talking about, I suppose when you chain a titan to a mountain to torture him for eternity, it does become his mountain. And we end up seeing Prometheus himself chained up to the top of this mountain.
And he is mountain-sized himself.
Yes.
He's in a loincloth, sort of seated on the ground, and his hands are bound up above his head and staked into the mountainside.
Yeah, and so Diana ends up basically taking her axe. I think she has to do a little bit of a blood sacrifice type of thing on herself, but she takes the axe and smashes through the chains. And she ends up telling him that, she can't permanently free him, but this may give him just kind of a moment's respite. And again, this is another moment of Diana just kind of being like a nice guy where like, she's coming for something for herself, but she does give him like temporary freedom, which I realistically she didn't maybe technically need to do. And then she also, I think all these birds have been like pecking at him just because. Like,
well, do you know the story of Prometheus? Like what?
Not enough to tell it like you do.
So, I don't know how well I can tell, but basically, Prometheus is he brought the gift of fire to humanity.
Right.
So basically, the gods originally we were like made out of clay or whatever, and humans were just running around in the dark. And Prometheus was like, I love the humans. We got to help them.
Yeah.
And the gods were like, fuck them humans. Like they're just whatever. Prometheus steals fire from Mount Olympus and brings it down to humans and gives them fire.
Yeah.
And basically that's like, it's sort of like the apple from the tree in the Garden of Eden or whatever, where then humans like become aware and whatever. That's part of this whole thing is like Prometheus basically gifts humanity fire, it changes everything, blah, 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 blah. Basically, Zeus is so pissed, he chains him to this mountain, and he has a giant eagle come eat his liver every day. It's like one giant eagle.
This is all ringing bells.
And then because he's like an immortal titan, I don't even think he's a god. I think he's a titan, which are like these beings that predate the gods. We can get in. I could get into that.
Maybe we'll do a whole. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm sure there'll be more Greek mythology related stories over time. But anyways, Prometheus is cursed because of his kindness, basically, to be chained to this mountain. Eagle comes, eats his liver, eats some of his internal organs, and then every day it re-heals because he's immortal, and then he has to just suffer it again the next day.
Right. And so Diana, being the nice person that she is, that eagle pulls up and she's like, hey sister, like what's poppin'? Please you and like your friends don't pull up and like eat on this dude no more. And as far as we know, the eagle was like, yeah, for sure. So she does that. She offers him water from this kind of like unending little water pouch that she has. And then she kind of admits to him that what she's looking for is also just so fun for me. It makes perfect sense. But the way that when he calls it a boon, I'm just like living through like Hades video game moments or whatever else right now. But she needs a vial of his blood to help create this lasso that Cersei's trying to create here. And because Prometheus is such a good guy and they're both such good people together, he's like, yeah, I'll give you blood and you can also just chop off the tip of my finger as well. You get flesh and blood for what it is that you're trying to make. He says that she is absolutely worthy of this kind of gift.
The scale of it is really crazy too, because he puts his hand down and Diana, she sort of prostrated herself. She's like kneeling on the ground holding this vial up above her head. And then when she cuts the tip of his finger off, for her, it's like this huge axe strike and blood is sort of gushing everywhere. But then we see the scale for him. It's like a little prick off the very tip of his finger.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, it's kind of just a cool little moment of showing like, the scale between them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, he's such a nice guy. He gives her maybe the best gift of all, which is Pegasus, the revived Pegasus especially.
Diana, look, my last gift to you. Rise, great one. Once born from the blood of Medusa, eventually betrayed and killed by Zeus, now reborn of my blood and a cry of justice on the very wind. Rise up, Pegasus.
And we also got Pegasus in a different font, which is pretty fun too.
It's kind of like a heavy metal font.
Yeah, heavy metal Pegasus. I mean, it's a pretty heavy metal like moment here. This bone, I don't even understand how the wings are also there, but bone winged horse rising out of lava with lightning strikes in the background. It's pretty metal. But so he goes on to kind of say that Pegasus, has a lot of, he's been radicalized by injustice, and that they'll make a good pair of the two. And so she rides off with Pegasus, and then we're back in the throne room with Hades, and he is kind of just trying to learn a bit about how Nemesis was actually created. She tells him that they killed the basilisk, and like good witches, they also used all the pieces, and we get all of this flashback to how she blinded herself, and then used this little vial of really I guess the smell, something that has basically a smell that the basilisk is super sensitive to. She blinds herself and uses that, and then she fully like decapitates the basilisk.
It's a huge snake, mega giant
snake.
And she does it blind, like total badass.
Yeah, it's crazy.
She can just smell where it is.
Yeah, and actually, this is a great moment. We get a little bit of blood and gore. I guess there wasn't as much in the beginning. Now we're getting some more stuff like that. But so they harvested everything, used it all, and then Hades also, we see his cute little like red crown. That's kind of a side thing. But we get the kind of climactic moment of this issue where we see that Hades shows that Circe is tied up, chained up there as well, and basically saying throughout this whole time he's been saying that she has like a sharp tongue like Circe. And then he says, at last, no more smart remarks from that too sharp tongue. We all have weaknesses, princess. Yours was quite easy to pinpoint.
Boom.
Crazy. Yeah. And then this is actually a very interesting moment too. Just this panel where we get a very hyper realistic like moment of Diana crying, which I think would have just looked different in the other version of the artistry that we had here. And so it's kind of just an interesting thing to notice here along the way.
And then we get into our final issue 7.
Issue 7. Give us some of this, because Persephone shows up in this too. But so,
yeah, we're getting Persephone. It's such good mythology stuff.
Yeah, we're getting into it. But so, what ends up happening is that Diana gets imprisoned in Hades' gladiatorial arena, and she's facing a chimera. We also get flashbacks to Circe kind of Circe's telling this bedtime story to Diana that's called The Lady or the Tiger. And it basically mirrors the choice that Diana ends up having to make, where Hades offers her kind of after she beats the chimera, he offers her 2 doors, which basically one of those doors is freedom and the other door is death. And neither of these doors, neither of these doors end up having her be able to be around Circe. If she dies, obviously she dies, but if she is free, she's never allowed to come back to hell ever, and will never ever see Circe again. And what Diana ends up doing is basically creating, and we'll dive into this in particular, but she creates this third path, and is able to see Circe and also be out of hell, but also be able to come back. And this issue really kind of centers on this idea of being able to defy fate and break away from the expectations of, all the people around you, the world, and so on. And Diana stands victorious at the end, but is kind of torn between freedom and then her loyalty that she feels to Circe as well. So give us some of the beginning of this with Persephone here.
Yeah, we just see another flashback to like cute little toddler Diana. She's running around on the wild isle in hell. She's chasing some like little puppy monster, playing tag, and then she sees Lady Persephone has pulled up, which is depicted as this like giant green goddess.
Yeah, which is crazy against, again, color all against the background here. Crazy swap up of color.
Another cool little detail is she has a little red crown like Hades too.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even notice that.
So the tale of Persephone is she is the queen of the underworld. She's Hades' wife. Hades kind of child abducted her, not gonna lie. She was like this beautiful goddess up on the surface. Her mother is Demeter, I believe.
Yeah.
She's like goddess of the harvest and another nature type goddess.
Yeah.
But basically what happened was Persephone got kidnapped by Hades, brought into the underworld to become his bride. And Persephone's mom was so upset that she decided there was not going to be any more bountiful harvests or anything, and everything shriveled up, and no one could grow anything, and the weather became bad. It became cold and dark, all that. So this is actually the Greek, one of their like explanations for the seasons. So it's basically like when Persephone's in the underworld, it's winter, and they can't grow anything. And then what ends up happening is they find out that Hades took her. Persephone's mother confronts Hades, and he basically says, okay, well, she can come back up with you, but she actually, while she was in the underworld, she ate a seed from a pomegranate when she was sitting like by the river in the garden of Hades or whatever.
Right.
And because she ate a pomegranate seed in the underworld, the underworld is like a part of her, and she can never fully leave. So they make a arrangement where part of the year she comes down and is his bride. Also, she's like somewhat a willing participant in this, I think, in some way. It's not just she's like a straight up kidnapped victim or whatever.
Sure.
Maybe she begins that way. I don't remember exactly how it plays out. But anyways, the agreement is half the time she's in the underworld with Hades being queen of the underworld, and then the rest she gets to be up on the surface with her mom and whatever. And that's why the seasons happen, because summer and spring when she's on the surface, and then when she's in the underworld.
And so she tells Diana the story. She says, have you ever heard the story of how I came to be queen of the underworld, Diana? It involves a kidnapping and some very diabolical pomegranate seeds, which not only are influential in this moment, but will come back a little bit later in this issue as well. Then we dive right into the action of right now. We're in the arena of the damned in hell, and Diana is fighting this chimera, and Hades is having a good time, basically saying, thank you. He says, thank you, wife. I was considering banning magic in the arena. I might make it even more interesting. What do you think? And Diana's kind of whooping on this chimera, and it's pretty funny. Persephone says, I think when she beats your chimera with only one arm, it will be hard for you to recover from that shame. I'd leave it be, darling. Don't worry about it. And then we start getting this last issue, I think, is one of the ones that has the most flashbacks of jumping back and forth and different things like that. But so we go back to this time before, where we're seeing in the Wild Isle that Circe is trying to basically communicate with Hecate, and what she ends up learning kind of through this conversation is that Diana is going to escape hell at some point. The first is temporary, and Hecate basically says, the first is temporary, you need not concern yourself with it. The second is more permanent, and then she ends up not being able to say kind of the full story. But basically, we're learning that there's some way that Diana is going to get out of here, and we'll see what ends up going on. I mean, basically. I'm fucking rambling at this point.
No, it's cool. We see like the story, the lady or what? We see the story, the lady or the tiger.
Yeah,
right?
This book falls off the shelf.
And so this is a story that Hecate basically has Circe read to Diana as she's growing up. And this is a really cool panel part. Is we see the story depicted in all these comic panels, like
very much like the pottery.
Ancient Greek, like vase paintings and stuff. And it's all in orange and black. It's really cool looking. So basically the story is there's a princess who falls in love with a commoner boy, tale as old as time. King does not like it. They can't actually make it work because he's a commoner and she's a princess. And so the king has the commoner kidnapped and says he's going to have to fight in this arena.
Very much like what Diana's experiencing right now.
Exactly. And there's these two doors that are options, and one side is going to have a tiger that's going to kill him, and the other side is going to let him be free.
Well, the other side is that it's a beautiful young woman that's going to be his wife, and he's going to live a long and happy life, but it is
not with the princess.
Yeah, not the princess, right? Which
and
is
so
crazy.
the princess basically realizes that she's going to be able to figure out which. She comes to see him in jail, and they decide that she's going to be able to let him know.
She's going to give him a hint and basically be like, this is the door you should go to not die.
Right. And And then the story ends, and so she did. And the ending is ambiguous. And basically we see that this really upsets and confuses little Diana because it's not a happy ending and she doesn't quite understand the moral. And it's implied that the princess doesn't lead him to where the woman is so that he can go have a beautiful life with somebody else. It's too painful for her to see him go live a life without her. So she sends him to the door with a tiger, and he dies instead.
That's what it seems like. And so it's like, one of these moments there that says, the princess learned that the beautiful young woman behind the door was someone that she was deeply jealous of, a woman who the suitor had once loved and who the princess had long hated. And a choice that had been painful but relatively easy on the face of it suddenly felt like the worst kind of punishment the young princess could imagine. And then Diana, like Ben said, it's very ambiguous, right? It seems like that's probably the way that she's leading him, at least with the way that they kind of describe the story, but there's no real ending. And then Diana's really upset by that.
And we see them having this conversation later, like flashing back and forth between the current day fight in the arena in front of Hades and Persephone and bound Circe, and then flashing back to now Circe's braiding her hair.
She's getting older. She's older, and she's hearing the story again.
Still discussing it. So it's really cool. You can see this as like a narrative that Hecate through Circe has laid into Wonder Woman's mind, so that when the time comes, she's gonna be able to figure out the meaning of the story at this crucial moment, and it's like figure out what to do.
Right, and again, we're getting a lot of, I think, again, like Diana's character here, right, where she's like, she's saying, if the point is that the gods decide your fate, it doesn't make sense because it's not the gods, it's the princess who decides. And then Circe's like, well, maybe that's not what it's about. And then Diana says, I don't like the princess. She's selfish. She doesn't love the suitor. She loves herself. And Circe's kind of just like, egging her on to have this critical thinking process. But it's this funny thing where even with Diana, when she's a kid, she's like, she should be better. She should be better regardless of her choice, even considering his death is beneath her. And, Circe's saying, I understand you're caught up on her worthiness, but do you think that's the point of the story? And Diana says, no. Right. So she's still trying to figure this out. So
then back to the, confrontation in the arena, we see Wonder Woman defeats this
chimera.
Exactly.
What's crazy is what we realize is that she's also able to talk to this thing.
Right.
Too.
And she's apologizing to it as she kills it, which is classic. Because classic her.
Yeah. Hades basically says like only one of you can leave the arena. And Diana basically says, if you force me to kill her for nothing for sport, then you're not the god I thought you might be, and it will draw a fateful line between this. And I mean, this is Diana's defiance, right? He's like, you say this to a god, you say this to the lord of the underworld, right? And she doesn't even respond to him.
The thing that's crazy too that we see that I think is cool foreshadowing for what might be to come in her story is Diana, right? She's so mad. She is sort of like glowing red. Her eyes are like crackling.
This is when I noticed red eyes for sure.
And so she's levitating up into the air, and then we can see that Persephone is sort of just this glowing green form. Hades is this glowing blue form, and now she is not quite the same look as them, but she's glowing red. And to me, that kind of is implying that maybe she's like, in some ways, more on the level of the actual gods than. Because we see Hades going, how is she this powerful? Like he's confused.
Right, yeah.
And she says, you know why I'm so powerful? It's because keeping me here is unjust and it's shameful. And everyone who knows of it knows the truth of its injustice, and it demands a reckoning. But your reckoning is not today, Warden. No, your time will come. And in the meantime, I believe we have a game to finish. A question of two doors. So basically we see she's reclaiming control of the scenario.
Of the whole thing. I mean, she just like is so disrespectful to, like she says, you are but an errand boy chained to this forsaken place by Zeus. And she's just going against everything. He's like, you dare defy me. And she's like, I do dare defy you, which is just super sick. But so, we're back to this question of two doors. And he says, pick a door, princess, so that I no longer have to look at your insolence face. Behind one door is certain death, and behind the other door is freedom. But before you choose, your mother should know that should you find the door to your freedom, you will never be able to return to her. You will be barred from the underworld until your death. You will lose your daughter forever, Circe. Your wild isle will be the barren stone it was when you first arrived for all eternity. And what we learn is that Circe, in the same way that the princess in the story knows which door is which, she gives a nod to Diana, and Diana heads towards the door, and it is the freedom door. And
she opens it enough that she can tell.
Yeah, she can see. We got the light beaming in, and we see her smile, right? And she says, "Thank you for trusting me, Mother." And then she jumps up, and Hades says, "What's this? Did I stutter? You've won your freedom, and you may not return." And then what we end up learning, if you want to tell us about it, Ben.
Yeah, basically. So she says, about that, it seems I had occasion some time ago to eat a diabolical pomegranate seed that your wife gave me.
Yep.
And Hades is like, what have you done, Persephone? So basically we see that we can assume during some kind of childhood visit, Persephone knew that this was going to happen sometime in the future. Yeah. Let her eat a pomegranate seed of the underworld. Yeah. Which for her was a curse, but in this case, it's kind of like using a loophole from her own loophole. Right. Yeah. Her own myth experience. And basically what this means is she has to come back to the underworld for at least some period of time during the year, the same way that Persephone does.
1 month in the underworld per year for every seed eaten. And so I guess she's been probably eating a bunch of these seeds over the years.
But basically, so she's going to be able to be free on the surface and fight and everything, but she's mandated by this magic that she has to come back
down for at least a month.
Yeah, see your mom for a month. So it's like, all right, she gets 1 month of mom time per year.
It seems like she kind of has a choice of when it ends up happening, like per year as well. But so we also, again, another character moment for Diana. Persephone says, she didn't even blink at the sacrifice, more than I can say for most. And so she'll be returning to for 1 month every year, unless of course you'd like to break the rules of the seeds. And of course Hades doesn't want to do that.
Because breaking the rules of the seeds would mean that Persephone could just be like, all right, husband, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm outie. And so we get this nice moment between Diana and Persephone, where Diana says, I'm forever indebted to you, goddess. You've restored my mother to me, a debt I can never repay. And Persephone says, beloved daughters must stick together, Diana. Continue the good work you have begun, and one day bring the reckoning which you speak, and I will consider your debt paid in full in honor of all lost daughters everywhere. And we get this last kind of moment here where Diana flies Circe back to the Wild Isles, and this is the interesting thing where she can't touch the ground because then she has to stay for a month, but she leaves her there, and they have this moment basically saying goodbye to each other until the next time they see each other again, and that wraps up issue number 7 of Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman. Kind of a wild ride.
It was great. I mean, I was just super won over, obviously. I mean, you guys can tell as I, rant and rave about the Greek mythology stuff. But I'm just such a sucker for Greek mythology. Anytime, as soon as I saw Persephone was pulling up and they were talking about pomegranate seeds, I'm like, let's go. Cooking right now. So, man, this was great. I think this was a lot of fun. We've mentioned this a couple times, but it stands in pretty strong contrast to Absolute Superman, which I think is actually really cool that DC is in their same reboot using their different characters to tell such different kinds of stories, different kinds of scales, different kinds of emphasis, different kinds of fables.
We'll see what story Batman's telling.
Yeah, we'll see what Batman's doing. Which is what we're doing next episode, Absolute Batman. Yeah, which is I don't know if we mentioned this in the beginning of the episode. We probably should have, but the DC iconic big 3 characters really are Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. Yep. And those are sort of the anchors of their storytelling all the way back from the 40s and 50s and, and is ongoing today. So it's pretty cool to see this, modern iteration of them. And I really liked it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I mean, like I said, I do think I'll be reading more of this Wonder Woman. I think that this was cool, obviously because of the mythology, but I think it was cool because of... she is such an interesting and very, I'm trying to think I almost want to say like purposeful, but she's, obviously purposeful, but she, along with some of these others, but she in particular of the ones that we've read so far has such like a strict, positive moral compass, on the way that she handles things. She doesn't want to, realistically, I think at the end of the day, she doesn't want to kill anything. She doesn't want to really be doing all that kind of stuff, but she, even through that, even as a warrior, and I think that this is maybe something that's really interesting to the fact that she is a warrior and a woman as well, is that she has this really impressive combination of when necessary, intense warrior type like brutality, but also this deep understanding of like kindness and thoughtfulness and respect. That's the interesting that you see when she's interacting with Prometheus or with Persephone or whoever else, right? She is like bowing down in respect to all these other things that are helping her, all these other people and gods that are helping her, which is really, really interesting.
Right. It's going to be cool to see. I mean, I'm sure eventually there's going to be overlap. I don't know if they do absolute Justice League or how they do it.
Yeah, I felt so behind when I learned that the first issue of this came out last year.
Yeah, no, we're on the brand new,
yeah.
which is pretty exciting. So yeah, we're going to get to see absolute. You know, we're going to eventually see Superman and Wonder Woman meet. We can assume.
Yeah.
And that's going to be cool to see. And Batman, I'm excited. You know, I started.
You sick bastard.
I started reading Batman already. But thank you guys so much for listening, tuning in. I think this is going to end up being another long episode, even though
we thought it wasn't going to be.
We thought it was going to be short.
But it was a good time.
We can't shut up about this stuff, which is really actually the kind of the point. Yeah. As long as it's not, too boring for y'all. But anyways,
thanks for listening.
Please follow us on Instagram if you want to participate in the conversation, see some pictures, do some comments, send us some DMs, all that good stuff. Send us comics that we should check out.
Yeah, definitely send us comics that we should check out.
If y'all are, in the Los Angeles area, maybe you can come kick it with us at some point.
Yeah,
and
come kick back in comics with us.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll, set up some Zoom calls and stuff with people further away and whatnot. And if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, throw us a review or whatever. It's easy to do, and will be interesting to see where this all goes. So
yeah, thanks very much for listening. This has been Kickback Comics.
Yeah, cheers, bro. Good stuff.
Cheers.
Bang. Peace.
That's another one in the books.